Hey y'all, Katie here, founder of MOMnation and owner and operator of Team EvoAZ at eXp Realty, your go-to gal for anything real estate in the state of Arizona. I am the sponsor of today's show. I will link my page and information in the show notes so you can quickly and easily get in touch with me should you need anything real estate, any advice, or maybe you're looking to get into the business. I sure hope you enjoy today's show. Thanks for listening.
Oh, there we are.
There we go.
We are live.
Hey, everybody.
Hi. Hey, guys. How are you, Katie?
I am doing just fine. On this lovely Tuesday. Did that sound convincing?
No.
All right. So
how far are we into this freaking quarantine now?
How far am I? So 30, 31, 32. I'm on day 32.
Okay.
Right now. You can tell, look. It's now, I have to curl it under because it's like below my eyeballs now.
Hey, we can do the 90s bangs, just like back comb them so that you get all that volume.
Right? When you had like that giant,
yes,
my dad used to call it a skill saw, like a skill saw blade.
I love it.
He goes, you have your skill saw blade on. I'm like, you're a dork. You're a dork.
Right? That is such a dad joke. Holy cow. Wow.
Totally bring it back.
Right?
Stay busy this past week.
Me? So I'm always busy, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not busy, I'll create things in which to be busy doing. So that's not a problem for me. But we did a couple of new little road trips and not far, like not hours and hours and hours, but
it's still fun.
Yeah, just kind of discovering different roads. Of course, I love looking at houses. So any new neighborhoods or anything like that, we can go through that have some scenery to them, or, something like up in Paradise Valley where we can dream and wish. And, there's a $17 million property that just sold this past week. We decided, maybe we should drive by that and see how the other half lives.
Yeah. The other half. The other like fraction of a 1%.
Yeah, exactly. That half.
Yes.
Yeah, so and Easter was cool. We went up to Scottsdale to see one of Matt's only aunt that lives here. It's not his only aunt on the planet, but the only one who lives here. So we got to see a little bit of family on Easter. We went for a bike ride. We did not enter her home. We sat outside 6 feet apart. Try keeping a 6-year-old 6 feet apart from his aunt that he like totally misses, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally.
Sunday morning we woke up to, Matt and I hid 48 eggs the night before. So Sunday morning, my kiddo was ready to go and he did his little egg hunt in the house because,
fun.
48 eggs is a lot to hide outside when you're trying to hide from your kid and not have him see you. And so we did it throughout the house, which was really cool. And honestly, my kid is doing great. My kid is super excelling through all of this. He's happy. He's getting a ton of exercise. He's just a normal kid. Like I really am enjoying the more one-on-one time that we get to spend with him as parents. I'm noticing, some in his math and in his reading, I'm noticing some improvement. So all around good for the Lamb fam. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yes, ma'am. And how was your week, my dear?
Well, I'm really tired of not being able to be around people. I'm not going to lie. My brother came to drop off some coolers that he had borrowed because he was moving during all of this. And he got stuck talking to me at my door for 45 minutes because I was like, another human.
Wait.
Yes. So he got stuck doing that. My neighbor was doing unicorn hair. So she was putting in temporary dye in her daughter's hair. And so she invited my daughter to come into, their front yard to get her hair unicorn haired. And so she has pink and blue and purple hair now. And it's so cute. It's so cute. And anyway, yeah, I'm just hitting my like day, 37, 40. I don't even know where we're at anymore.
Right.
Like,
I don't even know what day it is today. What day is today? Tell me.
The only reason I know it's Tuesday is because we're here. Like, That's the only thing. Like, there's just a few things that I'm like, okay, on Tuesdays I do this, and Wednesdays I do this. And then other than that, I have to look at my calendar anytime I'm like, what day is it? So, but if you ask me the date, no clue. Absolutely no clue. So anyway, I'm pretty done.
You're pretty done
with this.
I was thinking of you the other day, and I actually made a meme, and I'm going to send it to you.
Shush.
It's
You
so
made a meme?
hilarious. It's the first meme I've ever made, and it's so funny, dude.
I'm so proud just hearing you made a meme.
It could go viral. You never know.
It could.
Mm-hmm.
It could.
So I'm going to send it to you, and now it's not going to be a surprise because we're about to tell the world, but it's basically a picture, and I won't tell you what the picture was, but it said, me getting used to people after social distancing.
Is it awkward?
It is awkward. And I was like, oh, I have to send this to Beth.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I am so prepared to be the most awkward human on the planet when this all is over.
But you're like famous for it, so it's just
for being awkward. Yeah, I am. It's kind of my brand, so we're good with that. So with that being said, should I ask Emily some awkward questions?
Yes. Hello, Emily, by the way.
Perfect.
Hi.
Hello.
Emily comes to us all the way from Michigan?
Yep. Yep.
Is it nice there right now? Or do we not want to talk about it?
It's like cold. It's sunny today, but it's freezing. It's only 40, I think, was the high today. So it's really cold. It was about 60 last week, which was nice, but it's been really cold lately.
Katie, have you thought about the fact that, like, if we didn't live in Arizona, not only would we be like quarantined, but we really couldn't go outside?
Yeah, that would be a massive bummer. I'm sorry, Em. I'm outside like
it's awful.
3 times
Last
a
week
day.
it was so nice getting outside, and we went for bike rides and walks, and like it was keeping us sane. And this week I'm like, please just warm up a little, just to get outside again.
Oh.
No kidding. Well, I was just gonna say, real easy. Hop a plane, come down and visit us till your state gets their shit together. But you can't do that now.
Nope.
Sorry.
Very unfortunate.
Well, we won't sit here and look outside.
we won't talk to her about what kind of weather we're having today.
I know, it's probably so nice.
Yes, sorry.
It's beautiful.
It is. But anyway, that's not why we have Em here. We're not talking about the weather.
Which, it's like, honestly, just, I didn't used to care to talk about the weather, but since this whole quarantine thing happened, it's about the only thing to talk about. So
the only thing happening.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's the only thing that changes.
Yeah, it is.
So dang it. But let's talk about homeschool, as that's what we're all doing right now, because I was homeschooled. I don't know if you know that, Katie. I was homeschooled in high school. Okay. So I did part-time public school, part-time homeschool. So I got all my classes between the two. So I did public school for like the arts, where like chorus and drama and blah, 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 those sorts of things. And then I just did homeschool for like history and English and those types of topics. Yeah. So I was like super excited to, homeschool my kids, because I was like, oh, hey, I'm like so well versed in this. It's going to be fine. And it's not fine. So
hard.
Turns out, I can't do it. So anyway,
there might be some other people out there that feel like you.
I'm curious. I'm curious if any of our listeners are feeling this way of, I am not a homeschool mom, and I'm getting thrown into being a homeschool mom. And this is just not okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it is hard. I think our friends should comment if they can relate.
For surezies. So, Katie, how do you feel about it?
All right. Well,
she's fine. Katie's fine. Katie's got no problems. She's just rolling with it.
Can we talk about why though? And you can get the tomatoes ready to throw at me.
Because Matt. Is it because Matt?
Yes, because my husband does it. But he's losing his mind. I hear him, and he's like so frustrated. He's losing his mind. So he's going to be watching this too once we're done.
Mm-hmm. So I don't even know where to begin with asking questions because I'm so just emotionally upset about this whole thing right now that I don't think I can ask good questions quite yet. So Katie, I know that you had some really great questions though.
Yeah, well, and I think that this is what's on the mind of basically everybody is, are we gonna mess these kids up if we're not sticking to this rigid schedule? I mean, I know every school district is different, every teacher's different, so I don't know how rigid some people are from the next. I know every state is different. But I think what's on the hearts and minds of all of our moms out there is, man, like as if momming's not hard enough. You know what I mean? Now I'm thrown in the mix of, well, I know just our specific situation, we're in Kyrene district, and for our specific situation, we're getting a ton of stuff thrown at us, and the technology doesn't even really work that well. I'm going to just be honest here. Like, I hear my husband kind of complaining, even right as we speak, but he can't upload things, and so he's nervous that if he doesn't turn in the homework, like, what message do you have for moms coming from a teacher? Because are you an elementary school teacher?
Yeah, elementary.
Okay, and what grade?
I teach 5th now, but I've done kindergarten through 5th, so.
Oh, right on. And how long have you been teaching, real quick?
This is my 10th year. Yeah, 10th year.
Okay, so there's a reason why we had you on the show. You have a lot of experience to draw from, right?
So she knows what she's talking about.
You're right. So talk to us a little bit about this. Like the moms that are out there, the dads that are out there that are absolutely freaking out, thinking they're going to screw their kid up because they don't know what they're doing. Like, what message do you have for them first and foremost?
So day 1 and 2, I was like, I could do this. I never thought I could homeschool my own kids because they get frustrated with me even helping with their homework. And I was like, I can do this. I'm going to teach these kids so good, and they're loving it. And then by day 3 it was like, okay, I don't like this anymore. It's hard. So even for me as a teacher, I've taught the grades that they're in. It's really hard. And my first thing is if their stuff doesn't get finished, it's okay. So if their teacher's giving them things, I don't know if you are familiar with Google Classroom or what platforms that are used. But if they put stuff on Google Classroom and it doesn't get done, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Their emotional health and your emotional health are top priority. Right. There's way too much going on other than school that needs to be first and foremost. So my kids, their stuff doesn't all get finished, and I'm a teacher. So I know that it's hard. So keep that whole mental health aspect as priority. So yeah, as far as that goes, would you like me to go in some tips and stuff, or did you want to?
Yeah, 100%. We have time for that. Okay. But in the grand scheme, let's just think about this here. In the grand scheme of life, in the many, many years that these kids are going to be going to school, does this couple of months really have a huge impact?
Especially thinking about elementary, just because that's where I'm at. I don't think any colleges are going to be like, oh, but your 2nd grade year, you missed a lot of assignments. That's not going to happen. So it's going to be okay. I know it's harder for older kids that are in high school and things like that. There's a difference, but they're able to do things more independently. Also, they know how to handle those kinds of things. But the littler ones, if it doesn't get done, it's going to get covered next year. And as teachers, we know that they're missing these months of school. So we're going to go back and cover that. If half the class knows it, but the other half doesn't, we're going to go back and cover it for everyone. So it's really not the end of the world.
Right. So don't freak. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. So something that's come up for me as I've been helping my daughter with her assignments is she started to do this assignment, and she was supposed to choose which coin is a nickel, which one's a dime, blah, blah, blah. And I just was like, okay, do you even know what a quarter, nickel, dime, and penny are? Do I need to start with that? And it's just brought up I don't even know what she was learning in school or where she was at. This wasn't stuff that they were going over on homework. And so what are your thoughts as a teacher on should parents be knowing I'm sure other parents feel like failures as they're looking at this, right? And they're like,
yeah, what was my kid doing at school?
Yeah.
Totally. And I had to ask I taught kindergarten, and especially my kindergartner, I was like, I know how to teach kindergarten. I've taught kindergarten before, but I don't know what you know. So I asked his teacher, and she told me a little bit about what they've been doing. But honestly, like, especially for the littler ones, if they're doing any of that, like if you're just exposing them to those kinds of things, like, you know, that they had a link posted about money on Google Classroom or whatever, and you just like bring out some money and talk about it together, that's huge. Just exposure to it, even if they're not doing that exact assignment, just exposing them to it and talking about it is really powerful.
So moms out there, dads out there, don't freak out.
No,
we're not going to screw kids up in a couple of months, even if they did nothing. Am I hearing that right? Like, yes, we want them to do some things, and we're going to talk about that. But even if they did nothing, and because you can learn through play, especially when you're that age, right?
Oh my gosh. And that's like the teacher's number one thing too, is build those social skills. If they're playing with their brothers and sisters, that's ideal, because that's going to teach those social skills that we try to put in as teachers. But if they're at home doing it, oh my gosh, that's like our favorite thing, because there's not always enough time to do it at school, and sometimes we're told not to do that at school so much. Right. So if they're doing it at home, it's like, yes, do it more.
So it's interesting that, you know, as we talk about using play, there's actually a form of homeschool out there called game schooling, and they solely use games to teach you absolutely everything. So like there's games specifically for history and games for math and just everything. And so like using the play is the platform for that form of homeschooling.
Yeah, completely. Absolutely. And even just like everyday things, like we were planting seeds because we do a garden every year. If you're talking about what you're doing, rather than just like, okay, I'm going to go plant the seeds or whatever, if you're like, this is a seed, and say all the different steps, just it's building vocabulary, it's helping them understand why you're doing what you're doing, and that's going to help them at school too, just to give them something to connect to when they're learning about it later.
Awesome. Well, just so you guys know, we're going to be building over here in the Lambert house a great chef, because we play restaurant all the time.
Nice.
Yeah, mom likes to sit at the table and get served, and Jack loves to do that. So yay, it works out for everybody. But what was really cute was so he does this with fake food, right? He's got like plastic hot dogs and junk like that, right? And so we play restaurant a lot. But last week he asked me if he could begin using real food. And so he made me some grape kebabs that were absolutely fantastic.
Fun.
But anyway, rather cute, right? Like the point is that's play. I'm playing with him. I'm spending time with him, but he's learning stuff, and he's learning customer service, because mom is not always the best customer. And you may imagine I throw objections at him once in a while, Beth. You might.
I love it. I'm going to start doing that to my kids. Brilliant.
That is awesome.
I'm going to make little salesmen out of them.
Hey, you know?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
So one of my favorite things, though, about Jax is that he has such a mature palate. I swear he has a more mature palate than I do. And so it's that's one of my favorite things. You know, when I grew up being homeschooled, I had friends that they did unschooling, and so they actually were allowed to explore the world through their interests. Mm-hmm. And so one of my friends, she was really interested in costumes and clothing, and so she can tell you so many fascinating things about history based on what fabrics were used and why they had a certain design and those sorts of things. Meanwhile, her brother, he studied everything through the lens of ammunition. And so everything from English to math to science to, all of it, that was the lens that he learned everything through. And, he's gone on.
That's so cool.
So
yeah,
letting kids be who they are and explore their interests is a great way for them to learn.
Mm-hmm. And just talking and talking and talking while you're doing it. And it feels really silly, but explaining everything you're doing as you're doing it is so good too, just in general, even when school goes back in session. That's such a good thing to do, just to expose, because there's so much vocabulary that kids don't get. So just talk about what you're doing while you're doing it. I'm adding salt to the dinner or whatever. Just give them that, and that helps. So they're at least getting vocabulary if they're getting nothing else right now.
Right. That's a super good point. So, what if we get anything accomplished in a day's time? What's the most important thing?
Reading. Do some kind of reading every day. And just keep them exposed to reading. The general rule is for kindergarten, like 20 minutes minimum a day is great, like 20 to 60 minutes of reading. And that means like sitting down and reading with them, because obviously they might not be able to read kindergarten, first grade. Second and third grade, you want to do like an hour, hour and a half every day. And fourth grade and up, like an hour to 2 hours of reading. And it could be anything. It can be magazines, even if the kids want to read those kinds of things. There's so many websites that you can go on that have relevant things, like Newsella, that's free, and ReadWorks, that's free. So just keep them exposed to reading, because even in the summer, when you're off for a couple weeks or a couple of months, depending on your district, the kids will go down in their reading level just from not being at school. But if they're reading every day, it's going to keep them at grade level, maybe even go up a little bit. But to have a couple extra weeks off could be pretty potentially harmful for their reading levels. So if you want to do anything, keep them reading every single day.
And that's, just so that I'm clear, the younger children that can't necessarily read, that's reading to them, or
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Or even, read to them, or if they're looking at the books and doing picture walks and reading the pictures in the books, or you can go on YouTube. If you've got a conference call or something, you can go on YouTube and put like the title of books in, and people read the books to them. So that's even another thing, which is really neat, that if they love Pete the Cat, you can just search Pete the Cat and it'll read all of the Pete the Cat books to them.
Oh, that's a favorite in my house. So that's really good.
We love Pete.
Yeah.
My
So
kids talk about Pete the Cat. I've never read it, but
we love
about it.
it's really, really cute. So so for us, we have kind of our little curriculum for during the day, but at night before bed, we're doing our best to make it a point where mom reads one book of his choosing, and then he reads one book of his choosing.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Even if he reads the same book to you. How old? I can't remember how old you said.
He's 6. That's okay. He's 6.
So that would be perfect too. If he's not comfortable reading a new book, if he reads the same book back to you, that's even great, because just more reading.
Right. So it's really that sight reading that we're looking to improve, and is it really a memorization of the keywords like when, the, and,
yeah, all those words.
Yeah.
And then just sounding out the other stuff but there's so much weird stuff in English too. That's why it's so important to just keep them exposed, because the rules don't apply in English. So
right.
Just seeing those words and learning them.
They're all a joke. They're a guise to make it feel like there's structure and rules to it, but there's not. No.
But there really isn't. Isn't English like the hardest language to completely learn and understand? I've heard that. Maybe it's one of the hardest, maybe.
Yeah, I heard Cantonese is the hardest in English.
Because it's got like 3,600 characters or something crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, something insane. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I used to teach English learners, and they were like, this is so weird. It is. I'm sorry.
It is weird. And like sometimes, I don't know, as you know, teaching it, there's a whole bunch of different rules. So speaking of rules, talk to me about this new way of doing math. Now, you're talking to a almost 41-year-old girl over here. And I don't know this new business that they're doing. What the heck is going on? I think other moms are asking, especially, excuse me, in my generation, they're probably like, oh, you don't carry the one? What the hell is going on here?
Right. There's all these new crazy ways to do it. But it's okay to teach the old way. The old way is fine. It's another method for them to use. And they really can use that later on when they're just like doing it on a test. It doesn't say like when they're doing state tests and things like that. Kids can solve it however they solve it, but they're going to learn about it in different ways at school. So if you teach them the old way, all it's going to do is give them another method. So if they're finding the answer, that's what you want them to do. If you're not able to do it the way that their teacher does it and they yell at you because their teacher doesn't do it this way, tell them that this teacher said it's okay. You can learn the old way. That's why.
I
They're
definitely
learning.
have had that conversation with my daughter where she said, she goes, that's not how you do it. And I just was like, that's how we do it. That's
Right.
how it's happening, kid.
So you're dealing
There
with
is
that
a
now?
really good,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's
There's
just,
a good website. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, you're totally fine. I was just gonna say that, like, you know, we were just doing some like super basic addition stuff, and I'm like, yeah, you know, it's just like she's only in first grade, and so it's super basic. And so I'm like, surely there's no fancy way to add this, but apparently there is. So, so she's been pretty mad at me about that, and I've just been teaching her, like, well, you know what? For now, this is how we're doing it.
And that's not going to hurt them at all. That's
Right?
just giving them more methods.
So you had mentioned you were going to say about a website for math?
Oh, yeah. There's a website, I think it's free, if I remember correctly, called Learn Zillion. And it has the new way. So if you want to show videos for the new way to do stuff, just to show the kids someone doing the new way, that is a website that I'll show my class all the time, just for them to see another view perspective of someone showing it. But that's a really good way. But YouTube is awesome. There's a ton of videos for how to do those kinds of things. And there's teachers who make videos for their class. So if your kid is adamant about needing to do it the way their teacher said, put it on YouTube and just show them the videos too.
Well, one of the things that I'm also thinking about is the fact that, like, these kids this year just ended so abruptly. It ended, like, it's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah.
And so I almost worry about almost like separation issues, or just like not trusting school next year. Like, how do we help them to understand that this is such a bizarre thing, that this isn't normal, because their little brains just have no way of comprehending how
Right.
this is.
Yeah. And we don't either, because it's so new to us too. So I don't know. I think just talking about it and making sure, just keep that open dialogue so they know, like, it's new for us, it's new for you. We'll figure it out together. And I'm sure next year that over the summer, teachers are going to be coming up with a plan. I know our district is talking about different ways that we're going to, like, try to start next year so that we have that chance to say goodbye to our classroom last year and our teacher. So starting in the old classroom and then moving to the new room, because it's crazy. They didn't get to say goodbye to anyone.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking for these little guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to, even with them being, you know, as young as mine's 6, I think it's important to have at their level conversations so that they're not scared, so that they're not questioning things. You know, Jackson and I will talk about it, and he's funny. Like, we'll go for a walk and he'll be like, so Mom, I just held my breath when we passed that person so I don't catch the virus in case they have it. And I'm like, well, that's cool, bud. And then, you know, I talk with him a little bit more, and we're talking about it day in and day out. And he's not freaked out at all. But I can see how some kids might be. And maybe, you know, if they're a little bit older, they might be a bit freaked out about it. But how do we relay the message? Like, look, we're your parents. We're always going to protect you. There's not, you know, you're not going to just, like, die for no reason, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just going to be this sudden instant thing that you have to be constantly worried about, because I feel like there might be some kids out there that are
Those anxious kids. Yeah That's so hard to answer. That's so, because what do you say? It's just so new. Nothing like this has ever happened.
Right. What kind of conversations are you having with your own children? I mean, they must be asking.
I have one kiddo that's my 8-year-old. He's very high anxiety, and he thinks of worst possible scenarios about everything. And we just kind of make it light, but talk about how the rules that they have in place about washing our hands. And Aunt Megan is a nurse, and she tells me all the different things that we should be doing. And we make sure that we're following the rules that the governor is saying and all that. So we bring it back to, like, a rules thing, and we're following the rules, so we should be fine. And if we're not, then we'll figure it out from there. And he's been okay talking about that kind of stuff. But it's just kind of as it goes, having to come up with what to think about. And when they do go back to school, I'm sure the social workers too are going to be in full, like,
In full swing,
full
yeah.
steam ahead, yeah, trying to figure out how to help with the school aspect of it. But at home, we just talk about it a lot because I have high anxiety and he gets it from me. So we talk everything through and just beat it to death, kind of.
Are there any like tips that you learn as you're being trained to be a teacher and as you're going through school that make it so that like you're able to connect and deliver information and lessons that we could adopt as parents?
Do you have a for instance? Like, do you have anything that
Yeah. So my daughter, we've just been reading, and so I was like, okay, let me find what educational books we have. And so I'm like, Pompeii. We're going to learn about Pompeii. And so, I'm reading this book with her, and it's above her reading level. She's an advanced reader, but it's still like hard because there's a lot of complex concepts and whatnot. And so I want to like then turn and have conversations with her about like, what does this actually mean? So she was like, so does that mean all these people got buried in lava? I'm like, yep, that sure is. Like, that's exactly what it means. And so, but then she's like not understanding about like what time period this is, or
right.
At what do we do if this happens again, or that sort of thing. And well, we all die, honey. Like, how do
well, that would suck.
You've got all these advances in technology.
Right. So like, how do you in these conversations? I can certainly just have these conversations in a way that I know how to, but whereas like the conversation in a way that is educational for her instead of just terrifying for her, that there's a volcano that's going to burn everybody and cover them in rock, and then
you're never going to Hawaii again, Beth. Watch.
Right, exactly. So yeah, like how what are maybe like the tricks for like handling tactfully difficult questions?
Like, keep it super factual. So if she does go into like what would happen, like just keep it super factual. Like, well, let's look up other volcanoes that have exploded and what's happened then, because not every volcano has been a super tragedy. Some of them people go like walk around and they play with the lava with not their hands, but you can see videos of people like playing at active volcanoes, and there's different kinds of volcanoes, and let's look it up and see. But I honestly, right now, YouTube is going to be like a huge resource just because you can find anything.
YouTube was my best friend before this, so
it's even better now, huh?
We're on a whole new level.
Keeping it factual.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so like I just remember like when I went and volunteered in my daughter's classroom last year in kindergarten, they would be like, okay, bug, let's sound out bug. And then they'd like do this whole thing on their arms. Mm-hmm. Like, but I would never know.
Right. The movement, the kinesthetics is what they'll call it.
Okay.
Yes.
So where could we even go learn about kinesthetics for like our child's age range?
Yeah. Gosh, I wish I would have looked up some resources. I have so many books and things like that for that, but I can even put in the comments
on the replay or send it to us, and we can put whatever links you want in the caption.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because off the top of my head, I can't think of something, but I know that I have a million different kinds of resources for those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, because all the kids are going to be doing something different too, the way that they remember everything. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's so much. And that's another thing too, where people are saying like that they're worried about not being as good as their teacher, or the kid not having the same experience. But as a teacher, I'm like, I'm glad that they're not having the same experience. I got my master's degree in teaching. I would hope that I'm better as a teacher at teaching these kids than mom and dad are.
Right. That's a good point. And it brings me to, I wonder if this is even a concern. Like, how how are kids going to view school after this? Do you feel like there's going to be a certain kind of, well, maybe it's not so important? Now, I know that, school means something different to everybody. And to us in our household, we appreciate the going to school part of it. So homeschooling is not going to be for us. It's not something that fits for us, but I know it fits for many people. What do you think the general consensus from the kids that actually go like to public school or whatever, do you think that's going to change? I mean, what is kind of your gauge on that?
I would hope, just like in my dreams, is thinking about the kids at home with their parents, that mom and dad are telling them, like, this isn't school. You need to remember that school is really important, and just make sure that you're still talking about how important it is to just have that respect for going to school. And if they're not doing school one day because you have a big meeting or something, make sure that you tell them why you're not doing school that day. It's not because it's not important. It's because I have to do this other thing. I'm an adult and I have a job and I have to do this. So today we're going to do it a little differently, but that doesn't mean that school's not important. So just continuing to talk about how you need to, like, it's a valuable thing to get an education. Even though this is kind of weird, you need to remember it's going to go back to normal and you have to treat it that way as it was before.
Here's a awkward question, since I am the queen of awkward questions.
I was wondering when it was going to happen.
Right? Were you just waiting? So I love my children, and we've reached a certain point where we're kind of annoyed with each other. And I know that one of the reasons I could never be a teacher is because I find people's children to be quite annoying. So,
heard it here, folks.
Guys, I'm just being honest, okay? Just speaking my truth. How do you deal with kids when they are driving you crazy?
Walk away. That was my yesterday, and I had to walk away a lot, and I put my older son in a different room for me because I couldn't even be in the room with him. And I told him, you have one worksheet to do. That's all I'm asking you to do today. You're having a hard time, but I'm not going to give up on this battle. You're doing it. I don't care. That's all I'm going to have you do. But just like separation and alone time. And even between like siblings too, they need to be away from each other. We do I try to set it up. So we do 30 minutes of everyone just needs to be alone. Go to your rooms and close the door. Because I think that is you need that for your sanity, or else it's just, you're going to go nuts. And it was we're going to go nuts day. And we talked about it this morning and we were like, that was a bad day. We did not like each other, but today is a new day and we'll like each other today. It'll be fine, but we need some distance.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
How do you Oh, go ahead, Beth.
I was just thinking about in school, I remember when somebody wasn't behaving, they got stuck in the hall for 20 minutes or something. And I'm like, oh, this is all becoming clear now. The teacher was at the end of their rope with them.
Some space.
It makes so much sense.
So you need to set up a principal's office in your house, Beth.
Ooh.
Yeah, there you go.
So, but really though, what are the tips? Just being in the classroom setting, okay, so now pretend we're back in class and, you're doing your normal thing. What are some tips that you can share? I like that, Beth. What are some tips that you can share with our moms and dads about dealing with kids' attitudes and misbehavior? And my biggest thing with my kid, and I think probably many with young children will agree, is his attention span is can you see the space in between there? That's about it.
Maximum 5 to 10 minutes for a kindergarten first grader. They're going to be able to sit and listen to you for 5 to 10 minutes. If you're trying to actually teach them something or sit and do something, their attention span is going to be very short. So that might even be something if you work on doing these addition facts for 10 minutes and then take a break. Do a lot of breaks. You're not going to have a school day that's 8 hours.
Right.
For a little one, kindergarten for a second grade, you might do 1 hour of school, and that's enough.
And
that's really that's the whole day. And we do probably an hour and a half of actual work, and it's broken up throughout the day. So we do school from about 9 to 2:30, but there's only an hour and a half of that that's doing actual work. So they're reading for 20 to 30 minutes, and then we take a break, and then we'll do math for 20 to 30 minutes. We take a break, and I try to make them structured breaks. So like, you're going to do Legos now, and then they do Legos for a half an hour or whatever.
Or go outside and play and get the wiggles out.
Cool.
Something like that.
Yes, exactly. Do something else to get just a brain break. And then come back, and then we'll do, if they're not their parents, if their teacher puts a science something on, then we'll do that for the next half hour. But we're not doing school, like yearly school, from 8:30 to 3:30 like they would be doing.
I always wondered that. Like, sorry, Beth, but I always wondered, like, how long is my kid actually doing schoolwork? Because I know they have reading, which is schoolwork, but I know that they have lots of, they have lunch, they have like 3 recesses, they have art or PE or whatever during that day. So, this is great. This is really eye-opening. And like I said, my husband's definitely going to watch it, and we're going to have a conversation, because I'm kind of feeling like, I know, big surprise, that my day is maybe a little bit too rigid for my 6-year-old. And it's maybe a little bit too much time that he's learning. I know. Everyone, comment below if you're shocked about that, because I'd love to know if that was a big shocker to you. But
Zero comments.
But this is really huge and really eye-opening, for us in our household. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I actually had seen a meme that had said like, this is how much school for this age, this is how much school for this age. And I was like, oh, we are golden.
Yeah.
And so, I was so surprised, like, with when they launched Google Classroom for our school last week, I went in to go have her do it, and she got through like the whole week worth of schoolwork in 2 days. Like, super fast. And then the rest was all like PE stuff. And I was like, we're counting jumping on the trampoline as PE, honey.
100%.
So yeah, that's been one of the really interesting things, is seeing how fast getting through the actual work is.
Yeah.
And then it just has me thinking more about like how school provides more of the experiential side of learning than necessarily the nuts and bolts that
the doing.
think. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're getting so much one-on-one also, so that's going to make things go a lot faster. Where in the classroom, there's 25, 30 kids who are working on it at the same time, so they're talking to each other while they're working, so it takes longer. But when you're just sitting right next to mom or dad doing the work, you're going to do it faster, because
or not,
saying,
because you need a snack.
Well, and that's
right.
It's so interesting, like, as far as, a workplace, that you see that same thing, as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
It's that if you, Katie, I'm sure that you've experienced as a business owner, you can work much faster by yourself.
Oh, yes.
You can with other people around.
Yes.
And this just, it completely translates as far as like the idea of, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that just like teaching kids about those important life lessons, this is just giving them a different opportunity to, well, like today in MOMnation USA, I don't know if you saw this, Katie, but I had posted a question that said, would you rather give your kids what you didn't have or teach them what you weren't taught? And 90% of the answers are teach them what I wasn't taught. And like, this experience is giving our kids such an incredible life experience that's going to give them wisdom beyond their years.
I agree.
And part of it's going to be because of trauma. Let's be honest. But part of it is just like having this really unique experience where they can see things can be done in a different way, and it's okay. We'll get through it. We can get through anything.
Oh, 100%. And, they're watching us, especially now that they're with us every minute of the day. They're watching us. And they're watching how we deal with these things. And, what our thoughts are and our actions and our choices and things like that.
Your energy and your stress and like mentally, what are you doing to take care of yourself during this? And how do you continue to show yourself out? Like, there's so many things to teach them just by existing in the best space that you can as the adult right now.
And showing them that it's okay to be human, and it's okay as a parent to, you know, get frustrated, and it's okay, it's okay as a parent to cry. It's okay as a parent to be scared, but what choices are we making with those emotions going forward? Like, what's the next step? And I think their eyes are wide open watching us. So
because they're listening to everything, especially the stuff that they're not supposed to be listening, or it's not geared towards them.
Intended for them.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and just like what you're saying, Katie, as far as like they are, you know, your vulnerabilities. Like, what if your best actually is your most vulnerable? What if your best really is your most honest and transparent? And like, okay, so school teaches math different now, and I don't know the way that they teach you, but I do know the way to get you to the correct answer. Yeah. So it's okay. We're going to do our best, even if it isn't perfect. And that's such a huge life lesson right there.
Yeah. It's so huge. And I think it's also a giant life lesson to communicate with your child at their level. Like, if you have a nervous breakdown, or you do have a little, you know, time that you need to be alone, they need to go in the hall or to the makeshift principal's office. I think it's important on their level, though, to explain that and to be like, you know what, Mom felt like this because this stuff was going on. Here's the choice Mom made. Mom feels like this now. Like, it's okay to walk through these emotions as humans.
Oh my gosh. And please do. The kids don't know how to do that. They just don't, because they don't hear it. So it's so abstract for them. So to just talk that out is so important, because then when they're having an issue with another kid, they're going to be able to say, well, I'm feeling this because that. And that's where a lot of like those behavior issues are coming from, is they don't know how to say what they're feeling. So it just comes out as being really obnoxious or having a tantrum, where it might just be like, I heard you saying that so-and-so's in the hospital, and they're thinking that, but they don't know how to verbalize, I'm upset about that. And so now I'm going to be obnoxious. They just turn into this, like, who are you?
How many adults have we met that don't have this skill set, right? Like, that can't communicate. I mean, I might be this person sometimes. So just thinking about that, I'm just kind of caught up on it just brought back memories. So when my daughter was 2, my son was a baby, I was just stressed all the time, and I yelled at my kids a lot. And I've since worked with a parenting coach, and things are so much better and all of that. But what I ended up saying to my daughter, she was two, and I just said to her, if Mommy yells at you, I want you to look at me and say, you don't treat me like that. That's not okay.
Oh, that's such a good tool.
Oh, yeah.
And like, she did it. And she would tell me it, and that was like one of the biggest things that helped me to break out of this cycle, this generational cycle that had been happening for who knows how long, was having a daughter that I empowered to stand up for herself. Yeah. And like, guys, just for anybody that's listening, when you think about the things that you wish you had been taught, just think about like, okay, what kinds of experiences can I give my child that's going to teach them these lessons? Because I wanted my child to have better boundaries than I do, to tell her how. I still don't have them totally, but she's rocking it. So anyways, just, like being super transparent of, I don't want to be this mom, and it doesn't feel good to me, and it's okay with me if you hold me accountable for it.
Yeah.
And that just teaches so many good lessons, that it's okay to be held accountable as well. Just so many things. So
the communication part and the standing up for yourself part is absolutely enormous, because how many adults that we know try to stand up for themselves, but it looks like, biting somebody back just to hurt them. It looks like a really crappy response on Facebook. It just looks like something totally different.
Lashing out, blocking people. I mean, totally.
Passive aggressive instead of actually just saying,
hey, what's going on? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Communication is so huge. Gosh. I could almost like look back in all my years of therapy and go, okay, what did we talk about? My kid this. Like maybe I should use it as a checklist.
You know, as I was looking at that post today with all of these people saying, teach what I wasn't taught, I was thinking, what are the things that we weren't taught that we wished that we had been?
Ask them that question.
I will.
Oh, yeah.
I will.
And there's so many things that
so
were like
intrigued.
hush hush too. Like we shouldn't talk about that.
Yeah. Like sex.
Mm-hmm.
So I come from, I'm a 70s baby. So how many pregnant teenagers were there in the 70s? Maybe if we would have talked about sex in the 60s and taught them some things, maybe that wouldn't have happened. Now, I'm not saying I'm not grateful for being one of those babies, because without that having happened, of course I wouldn't be here, yada, yada. But that's a huge topic that I feel like, hey, look, you can, obviously there's age appropriateness, but you can have these discussions and teach your kids this stuff. Like they don't leave it up to some friend or, you know, some future romantic partner to teach them this stuff.
Right.
You know what I
And
mean?
even the no means no stuff, like start from what my kids always are: stop means stop, no means no. That was probably the first sentences that I made them write. Like even if it's just stop, like taking my ball from me. So my own kids know that, just because I'm like, they're boys growing up in America and there's a lot of stuff happening right now with the whole like no and stop and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so my students know it. Stop means stop, no means no, no questions about it. And it's as simple as that. It doesn't even have to do with sex or anything like that, but just learning stop means stop when I say this, so it's going to mean stop later too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. I feel like Beth's over there making notes. You want to know why? I know, because she's writing a script for a new show or a topic, because we're unscripted. Wait a minute. We really are unscripted. We don't know. But she's writing a topic for a new show. I bet you she has 2 or 3. We won't put her on the spot. Em, is there anything, I know that you had some tips to bring to the table. Is there anything else that you wanted to offer to our mamas or share?
Let me look at my list of stuff to see if we've
kind of talked about a lot, so
yeah. I think we've talked about all the little like notes that I made. Keeping a routine is really good. So like eat breakfast. It doesn't even have to be at like a time, like 8:30 we start. It could be like after breakfast we start reading and then we do this. So just having a routine is really good. And like I said before, if something doesn't get finished, if it's between your mental health and a math worksheet, choose your mental health.
Wellness.
Yes. It'll get done. But yeah, I think everything that I had made little notes about to talk about were covered throughout.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, you've been an amazing guest. And Beth, what do we want our audience to do for us?
Well, we want them to go to whatever platform it is that they choose, but ideally iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
And on iTunes, we would love for you to download these episodes, rate, review, and subscribe. The reason why iTunes is because that's the place where most people go to search for podcasts. And if you leave us a 5-star rating, if you're going to leave us any less than a 5-star rating, like wait until you love us enough to leave a 5-star rating, then come back and do it.
Longer.
Yeah. Just wait. You'll love us eventually. And once you 5-star love us, then go leave that rating for us, okay? We want you to leave a review, kind of talk about what this podcast has meant to you, how it's helping you, that sort of thing. And we want you to subscribe to it, because the more people that subscribe to the podcast, the more that we get to be seen. And the more we get to be seen, the more moms we get to impact. And we will be working on bringing MOMunes, homes for moms that are leading relationships or are in transition periods in their lives that need a home to be able to stay in as they're getting back on their feet. So it's really important that we're able to reach more and more people so that we can make that impact in the world, and we can't do it without you guys. So that is what we need you to do, and make sure you download the episodes. Don't just listen. You got to download them. Otherwise, it doesn't count. Don't know why.
I know
it is what it is.
Yes, please. All right, ladies. Well, it's been a fantastic show. Emily, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
guys. Oh, you are so welcome. I think that you have just eased some tension in a million billion households across the nation. So thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Of course. I hope so.
All
So
right.
much less stress. So much less stress. Thank
Ciao until
you.
next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.